Hi there, Trisha here, and I'm going to share with you the trades that I took today. I only took two. If you'd like to get these two simple trade setups that I use, you can go to www.easyemintrade.com. I have two setups, one off a longer tick chart and one is a scalp setup off the smaller tick chart, all confirmed with indicators and on three charts before taking entry. So this is the longer tick chart, and just ignore that arrow because I'll show you that later on. But you can see we opened right about at the high of yesterday, and we just kind of bounced around in between the two moving averages. No real direction, kept hitting its head on the high from yesterday. So not a whole lot going on really until we got down below both moving averages at about 1020, probably about 1025 or thereabouts. This actually was a scalp setup that occurred on the shorter tick chart, and we have divergence on our indicator, which is always a nice thing, and we have our scalp setup occurring. However, our ticks were in positive readings, so I pass. And oftentimes people first thing in the morning will ignore what the ticks are doing and for the first half hour of the day, just because of everything being so skewed when the market first opens. But, I choose not to ignore that, so I passed on that short entry. This is a scalp short that's set up that I passed on, and the reason why I'm showing you this is just to give you my reasons why I'm passing on some items. But this was a short scalp that's set up at just about 1046, 1047, somewhere around there. And the reason why I passed is because the close from Monday is right at 848. So realistically, it's going to get to 848 and then bounce right back up, which is, kind of what it did there. And, sometimes it'll fall, right through that, but usually it doesn't. So usually I'll pass on that. Here's the tick chart, the longer tick chart, where the close from Monday is, and where the circle is where that entry would have occurred. And you can see that they're very, very close, where the entry would have occurred and where the close from Monday is. Now, the other arrow is an entry that I actually took, and you're probably wondering, well, why did she take that one that's so close to the close from yesterday and not the other one? Well, there's a couple reasons. The first one is actually has not pulled back to the moving average. So again, being close to the close from yesterday, I chose to pass. The second entry where the arrow is, I chose to take because we have our pullback here. And, again, I know getting into this trade that possibly it might hit that 848 mark and just, bounce right back up. But I do have the setup here on my scalp, so I took it. So here is where I got in at 848.75, and I trail stopped out at 842.25 for a gain of 650. So all of my indicators are in alignment on all three charts. So I chose to take the chance and take the trade because the setups were there. I just didn't really know if it was going to slice through the close from yesterday, and it did. Where you see that white rectangle is where I trail stopped out. So that was a decent trade, and I was happy with that. So obviously, if you take your +2, +4, and then trail out the last, it was a winning trade as well. Or if you only trade one contract and trail stop out, that was a really nice trade as well. And this is showing that same trade on a 2-minute chart. I have all my indicators and so forth all in alignment. My ticks are good, my trending indicator is good, and you can see that we're having a pullback on this chart as well. So, all things considered, that's why I took that last trade that I just showed you on the scalp chart, and it worked out just fine. But again, it could have just as easily, bounced off of the low from yesterday, the close from yesterday, but it worked out okay. This was a scalp long that started to set up at almost 3 o'clock. It's like 2:53, 2:54, and this I did not take. And the reason why I'm showing you this is I want you to understand why I don't take this. I've got my divergence and so forth which is great, and all my indicators are indicating that I can go long. However, we're not in an uptrend until right about 3 o'clock, so I pass. This is the smaller minute chart. This is the smaller minute chart, and this is about where the entry that I just showed you that I passed on was. It was right around here. Now you can see I've got the Fibonacci lines drawn on here so you can see where the 50% mark is, and it's right around here. Once we get past that, then we can consider taking longs, because we need to be above the 2 moving averages on the longer tick chart, and we need to at least be, past that 50% mark, or you're technically not in an uptrend. So the second arrow that was on the chart that I just showed you, actually, an entry set up at just after about 3:05. It was like actually 3:03. So I have my long scalp setting up, and I got in at 8:56. Now I used a market order. Typically I will go 1 tick above the bar that sets up, but I used a market order to enter, and I got in at 8:56. Now had I gotten in 1 tick above the bar that set up, I would have got in at 8:56.25, but lucky for me I didn't, because my stop is always 2 points away from my entry, and it actually did come down to my entry right here if I'd gotten in at 8:56.25. So I almost did get stopped out. If I had gotten in at 8:56.25, I would have been stopped out. But lucky for me, I had that quarter tick that saved me. So anyway, I trail stopped out for a gain of 2 1/4, and up in the right hand corner where that rectangle is where I trail stopped out. And if you were using the method of getting out in stages, +2 +4, and then trailing, then that would have been an excellent trade as well. So those are the 2 trades that I actually took. Now this long set up at approximately just before 3:30. So I'm thinking, okay, here we go again like yesterday. I'm not going to miss a trade like I did yesterday. However, I did not take this scalp long that was setting up, only because on the longer tick chart, the price actually closed below both moving averages, and also on the smaller minute chart, we were under that 50% mark. So again, technically not in an uptrend, so I passed. Obviously, if you would have taken it, it would have worked out, but I'm looking for higher odds trades that have a better chance of working out, based on my criteria. Not saying that something is right or wrong if it's working for you, but this is how I trade, very conservatively. I wanted to show you this. This is the tick chart for all day, and notice the black line drawn in the middle. That is the 0 mark. And usually, when you have a down day, majority of the readings are below that 0 mark. And when you have an up day, majority of those readings are above that 0 mark. You can see by this chart that we are just all over the place. We don't have any decisive direction whatsoever. So usually when you have a day like that, it is a more difficult day to trade, a more difficult trading environment, but you can still always definitely catch a couple trades at least. But that's why if you were trading today and you felt like you were getting whipped around, that's why, because the ticks were in no specific territory, any one part of the day. So with that said, I had 2 trade setups, 2 trades that did set up, and they're both using the scalp method, and the first one was for a gain of 6 1/2, and the second was a gain for 2 1/4. There were a couple setups that occurred on a longer tick chart, but I did not have confirmation on my smaller tick chart, so nothing set up on the smaller tick chart based on the entries on the longer tick chart. They're already in oversold territory, so I will not take a trade if it's already in oversold territory or an overbought territory if I'm going along. Again, just looking for higher odds. So anyway, go to www.easyemintrade.com and you can get these 2 setups, and I will see you tomorrow.